We're going to be sitting on the ground today because I don't have anything else. Grape! I have a wedgie, hold on. We have wedgies too, you know. Even though we're wearing like this thing. Getting my notes ready just to show you guys. I take notes and I actually prepare for these videos. There's like 2 bullet points on here, but that has to be enough. I forgot the fact that I am attached to a microphone. That's grape. How many times did I say grape already? I feel one too many times. Hello everybody and welcome back. Today is gonna be an interesting topic. I don't know how this topic came to my brain, but I was listening to this other podcast the other day. It was in Arabic, and the podcaster was talking about the people who ignore this life, the people who take this life as a joke, like they don't really take it seriously. You know, they go from day to day and just having a blast, I guess, and just like not thinking about the hereafter. They're just like whatever, like it's important to feel good in the moment. You know, I don't really care about the future. Future me, solve your own problems. Right now I'm having a good time. That's not a very good mentality. I know it's fun, but it's not a good one. And she brought up this idea. It was very brief, but she brought up the idea of this is not a real home. And when I heard that, I was like shaken because I knew it, but I didn't internalize it enough to realize this is not our real home. Like, we're born here and we're gonna die here, but it's gonna be the first death, you know, and then after that is eternal life. And when we are is it reimbursed? Is that the word? Wait, what's the word? Reimbursed. When we're resurrected, that's the word. When we're resurrected back to ourselves on the day of judgment, and then we go through the trial, and, you know, it's either, do I need to say, you know, heaven or hell? Right, bringing up hell makes the hairs on my arms stand. Atheists are looking at me in laughing mode right now. It's okay, I don't mind it, I really don't. But it's either this or that, but like then, thereafter, that's your real life. That's your actual life. Like, it's either heaven or hell. That's your actual life, you know. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ankabut in ayah 64, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعْبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, this worldly life is nothing but diversion and amusement, but the abode in the hereafter is indeed life itself, if only they knew. And here Allah uses an interesting word, al-hayawan, which means, guys, it doesn't mean animal. In slang Arabic, it might mean animal, but astaghfirullah, I'm like, why am I, this is why it's good that I'm not like an Islamic studies teacher. Al-hayawan refers to eternal life, you know. And the interesting thing is that it's hard to translate because Arabic is just a lot more complicated. I'm sorry, English speakers, your language is very, very surface level, you know. I didn't want to say it, but I had to. But the translation over to English would be like life itself, real life. I translated a tafsir that explains what al-hayawan means, and it says it is perfect life, which is one of its necessities, that the bodies of its people are extremely strong and their powers are extremely severe because they are bodies and faculties that were created for life. That's what al-hayawan means. It means life that is meant to be forever lasting and strong, you know, which is not this life. This life, we're very weak, we're very fragile, we're very prone to any kind of injury or whatever. Literally, I got a paper cut the other day, it almost killed me. You know, that's what, I hope that got the message across. And the definition doesn't stop there. Al-hayawan is it's a very interesting word to open up and investigate. And it's this life where you have this strong body that can feel desires, that can feel like the pleasures and the joys to its fullest extent. Because here we're very, very limited, you know, in terms of our senses, mostly senses, like what we can taste, see, touch, smell, hear. All of these things are very limited because imagine, let's take sight, for example. Let's take our eyes. We can only see a very limited range of colors, you know. That's not true. Learning CSS, I've seen so many range of colors. I've seen all of those, the hexadecimal colors. I'm not even going to get into that. I don't know if that's actually what they're called. Anyway, moral of the story is don't go into CSS and programming. Sorry to diverge. It just gave me a little bit of trauma when I talked about colors. But using the example of eyesight and colors, it's like there are colors that we don't know that exist in an infinite amount. Just saying that, I'm like freaked out. Like, what colors are there that we don't know? And then that's when I start to think about, like, maybe it's like sparkly stuff, maybe it's like gold and silver colors that have texture. I don't think that's what I'm talking about. Limited, so limited. Like, that's what my brain can come up with. That's it. That's lame. And going back to the ayah where Allah says that وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعْبٌ, this life is nothing but diversion and amusement. Yani, I don't even know where to start with that, because it feels like every single day there is diversion and amusement. Like, I sometimes think about grabbing coffee in a cute coffee shop because life is awesome. Let's like go have fun. That's a distraction. I don't want to be the one to say it, but grabbing cute coffee at a cute coffee shop just because you want to, just because you desire it, that's a distraction, Even if you bring your Quran with you, there's probably music playing in the background. Don't fool yourself. But I try to pay attention to that stuff because there's distractions almost everywhere in our lives now. You can't go anywhere without something being a distraction. For example, like, your idea of having fun is probably going to the cinemas. And don't get me wrong, I like going to the cinemas too. But you don't understand the extent to which this is literally Shaitan's game. Like, Shaitan is literally like, this is where I can get into their heads. This is the perfect opportunity. And you're just there sitting with your popcorn. You're like, I'm going to have a great time. You're going to get possessed by the devil. Okay, possessed is a strong word. But like, you get what I mean. It's like your film in and of itself. Most of the film that we watch, right? The films come from Hollywood. Last time I checked, Hollywood is not very Islamic. Okay? Hollywood is honestly maybe even the polar opposite of Islamic. Why are they so crazy? They bring in so much filth to the screen. It's like when my mom and I try to pick a movie, because like, we're at the mall and it's sunny outside and we kind of don't want to die from heat exhaustion, so we want to sit inside a cool place and be entertained. And we'll browse through the movies, and each movie looks honestly worse than the last, crappier, dirtier. It's all of them are just so filthy for no reason. And what is it pertaining to? Like, what are these playing to? They're playing to our whims and our desires because we want to see a cute couple on screen. But like, is it because you're single that you want to do that? I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm taking hits at the audience for absolutely no reason. Listen, I'm also like, I do this stuff also. I'm not sitting here saying, guys, I'm perfect. I'm literally one of you guys. Unfortunately. No, that was a joke. That was my sarcasm and humor has taken a hit today. Apologies in advance. This is just an example of amusement and diversion. The cinema, cute cafes, all of these are just an example. And I can't begin to fathom how many more examples there are, because I feel like most of our lives, if not all of our lives, are filled to the brim with amusement and distraction and diversion. And diversion is a very interesting thing because it brings up the question, what is diversion? Now listen, I'm not a scholar, okay? This is just what I think, but take that with a grain of salt. For all of these people that are like, you're not a scholar, why do you have a podcast? I like to talk. That's why I have a podcast. When I hear the word diversion, I like to think of it as like when you're at a crossroads. You see two paths very clearly. You see a path diverging into two. There's a good path, there's a bad path. We both know what they are. Okay? Let's not play dumb here. And you see both of them and you're like, I have to pick one. Now is my time to pick one. What do I pick? Do I go to a really, really cute cafe and sit with people where there's music and there's literally no ounce of meaningful conversation? Or do I spend that time in a meaningful way at home where I can read some Quran and, learn something about my deen? I don't mean to call anybody out. I really don't. I'm calling myself out at this point because those are the questions that I ask myself. And there's always this argument that I loathe with a passion that goes like, Muslims need to have a balance between the dunya and the akhirah. There needs to be a balance between worldly life and the afterlife. I'm like, where did you get that idea? There is not supposed to be a balance. There's supposed to be an imbalance because this life is not worthy enough to balance out the afterlife. Does that make sense? Like, this life is so tiny and so little and so short compared to what we have after this. And so for you to sit here and say, this life is supposed to be balanced. No, it's not. You're supposed to use this life to build your afterlife. This life is not supposed to be for play. It's not supposed to be for amusement. It's not supposed to be to just sit around nilly-willy having fun and all you think about like is how can I have fun at this moment? Like what can I do to feel excitement in some way? What should I like? What when I said should I, you thought of something. I'm just saying that because I don't have examples off the top of my head, but you get what I'm trying to say. There are things sprinkled throughout your day where you do it for pure excitement. Like you just want that adrenaline. That's all you want. When you forget that this life is not for that. This life is a test, bro. You can't just go around this life thinking that this is where you live. This is your home. It's not your home. And I don't mean that in the racist way, like go back to where you came from. But you are going to go back to where you came from, inevitably, whether you like it or not. So when people do certain acts or they have certain habits that are considered sinful, and when you ask them about it, they're like, yeah, well, it's called balance. Balance, baby. I'm like, bro, what are you trying to balance? Your time in hell and heaven? Or like, what is the goal? What is the goal? You use that as an excuse to merely indulge in this world. To like overdose on the pills of desires, on the pills of little bits of not even real happiness of this world. Because when we do certain acts or do certain things that we know deep down, we know that's not good for Muslims. We know that we're not supposed to be doing that. And it literally goes against Allah. It's something which Allah dislikes. Which, by the way, is a very serious thing. It's not light at all. We know that those moments are not real happiness. Muslims know this, and Muslims should know this. Muslims should know that the only real, true, profound happiness lies with the remembrance of Allah. It lies in the presence of the angels. It lies in the moment when you remember Allah. And when you remember Allah, your name is literally remembered in the skies. A girl is getting a little bit emotional today. At this point, I get emotional every episode, so it doesn't really matter. And when you pray and you read Quran and you say your adhkar, angels are surrounding you. And you feel that, You feel their presence because you feel at peace when you do those things. Granted, thinking of doing those things, it may not seem as exciting to some people. But when you are in the act of doing those things that are beautiful and beloved to Allah, and that's the only real happiness and the real peace that you'll find. Because what this world offers you, with all of its advertising, with all of the ways trying to market happiness, you can see through that, and I know you can. When there's like an advertisement and then there's just like this woman smiling with a shopping bag, like, You can see the sadness through her eyes. I don't know about you guys, but I can feel it. It manifests the room. Whenever that advertisement is put up, like on a road, the sadness is manifesting that highway. Yeah, I feel it in my soul. Sorry, I don't mean to shame any woman that has photographed for that kind of advertisement. But regardless, what I'm trying to get across is that this world will offer nothing you of actual peace and happiness, no matter how much you think. It's not going to be in clothes. It's not going to be in the way you dress. Those clothes that you buy and that you're so excited to wear. And when you wear it, you want your friend to take a picture and then post it on Instagram. And everyone's going to be like, wow, you look amazing. No one cares. I'll be honest. No one. I'm so sorry. I don't want to give you this blunt pill. But the blunt pill needs to be given, and here you go. Take it. I don't mind. I have plenty. No one really cares about the things that you're portraying on the internet. Everyone really thinks about themselves. Me too. I think about myself all the time. That's not a really good thing to admit on the internet. But I keep it real here. I don't have time to waste. I don't have time to lie. Because that's boring, because I have nothing to sell, which is really nice. It's very freeing. But people indulge in these things. They buy all of these things and they post about it, and they're excited because they think all of those likes, all of those comments, everything that people are seeing, their image on social media, they think that's going to bring them happiness. Some people, right? Not everybody, but some people. Most people, more than you think, which is honestly depressing for all of our case. At this point, it just feels like a facade on the internet. Every time I open social media, like I open Instagram, for example, thankfully my feed is not as messed up. My feed is just cat videos and gym motivation. That's it. I wish there was more to it, but no. I programmed it to be that way, and I'm honestly happy about that. Oh, and babies. There's a lot of babies on there for some reason. Instagram thinks I'm a mom, but I'm not mad about it ever. But I know most people, when I see their feed, it looks disgusting. Not because it is actually disgusting, but the amount of brainless things on there. The amount of things that have absolutely no meaning to them. The amount of things that make you attached to this dunya and don't remind you of your akhirah. There are people that have beautiful feeds once you open them. All they do is follow, those deen posts, the posts that give a hadith, or they post ayat of the Quran. They have manufactured their feed to look like that because they want it to remind them. And I think those people are honestly, Allah yaj'alna minhum. Allah, please make us one of them, because those people are so beautiful. Honest to God. I think those are some of the most beautiful people. And why do we want to do that? Why do we want to cultivate our feed to remind us of the akhirah? Because there has to be something in place, right? To remind us that this life is very temporary. And it is nothing. And I mean this wholeheartedly. It is nothing but a test. Life is not here to just drink iced coffee all day, which, in the beginning, I thought it was, when I realized how good it tastes. But it's not. Life is not here for you to solely brag about your successes and your achievements in life. Because, hear me out when I say this, all your achievements and successes mean nothing if they didn't do anything for you in the akhirah. If they're not going to do anything for you on the day of judgment. If they're not going to stand for you on the day of judgment. All of your successes and achievements in this dunya will come out to zero when you're 6 feet under the ground if they are not related to Allah and pleasing Allah. Because that's what we're here to do. We're not here to just live for the sake of living. We are here to worship Allah. And I think it's beautiful that Allah made ibadah in so many forms. So many kinds of forms of ibadah. You can pick whichever one every day. Incorporate so many kinds of ibadah in your day. Your adhkar, your prayer, Quran, fasting. Smiling in someone's face is literally a form of ibadah. there's so much mercy placed upon us that we should be ashamed if we're not taking advantage of these things. I have a feeling that the YouTube community guidelines or the Spotify one is going to be like, did you just tell people to be ashamed? That is called hate speech. You need to remove your video immediately. And you know what? YouTube, Spotify, you should be ashamed. Yes, I said it. I'm not taking it back. Actually, that was a joke, YouTube, because, starting to get money off of it, which is kind of nice, actually. Oh, see? Even that. The topic of money. Oh, the topic of money. I could talk about that all day. I'll keep it brief. Some of us, and I'm including myself in this, okay, can be very stingy with our money. Can be extremely stingy with our money. When it comes time to spend for the sake of Allah, we're like, we're not sure. We're hesitant. We're like, should I? Thankfully, I'm getting out of this, because my mom is a very generous, she's an insanely generous giver. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And she's getting me into the habit of spending more for the sake of Allah, alhamdulillah. But I'm saying this not to expose myself. Many people think I expose myself for no reason. I'm saying this because I want it to inspire someone to do the same. Giving charity, spending for the sake of Allah is one of the most powerful things you can do, because come the day of judgment, you're going to see all of the things that you gave, all of the things that you spent for the sake of Allah. And I'll be honest, like, giving in that sense is not extremely selfless, because in the end you do want it to come back to you, but it's not necessarily going to come back to you in this dunya. It's going to come back to you in this akhirah. And that's what I mean when you use this life to build your afterlife. When you spend in this dunya, don't think, I hope it's going to come to me next week because I really need the money. If that's the way you think, then what are your priorities? Like, if you say, I hope my money comes back to me next week, you might die today. You might die tomorrow. But that money that you spent for the sake of Allah, that's going to stand straight to defend you on the day of judgment. It's going to be there to help you out. And you're going to be like, thank God I spent something. So I say this again, and I need you to listen to me when I say that Muslims, this is not your real home. This is merely a diversion and amusement, but more than anything, it's a test. It's a test to see who will react responsibly to those diversions and amusements. A test to see who can overcome their desires for something much bigger than their desires. Because desires is such a small little thing programmed within us, and we think that it's everything. But when you understand what this life is and what it means and how it's going to be evaluated when you die, like, it just changes everything. It makes your desires look like a joke. Because realizing that your desires are a part of your test, and the most important thing you need to do in this life is pass this test, your entire perspective shifts. Your entire perspective changes. Also, this is very random, but I heard this in the podcast that I mentioned earlier in the episode, that when you are resurrected, you're not called by the name you were called in this life. For example, my name is Farah, but when I'm resurrected on the day of judgment, that's not my name. My name in the afterlife is the act which I did most of in this life that Allah loves. And so the angels, when they call your name, they call you by your most beautiful deed, your most beautiful act. I'm not getting emotional. You are getting emotional right now. Just the simple fact that your name in this life is not the same as the afterlife proves just how much this life is meaningless in its whims and desires. It proves how much it's a test. It proves how short it is and how small it is compared to the great deeds that you can be doing in this life. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like calling the afterlife, because it gives off the idea that it's not real life. The way we're breathing right now, the way we're here, alive, it's
Like, this life is all we know, so we think that this is real life. But it's not. It's not real life. This is only the test life. The afterlife is the real life, because that life goes on forever. And we don't even know what forever is to know what that means, to understand the capacity of what that means. And it's terrifying, but we take it one step at a time. And you're already taking one step at a time by listening to this episode. Thank you and good night. No, I'm joking. I got excited. But no, really, I'm ending this episode here because I am hungry. This episode was inspired by one of my favorite ayat of the Quran. That is Surah Al-Ankabut, ayah 64. وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعْبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. And this worldly life is nothing but diversion and amusement, but the abode of the hereafter is indeed life itself, if only they knew. That's where I'm going to cap it off. I think that was a beautiful ending. No better ending than to end it with Allah's words. It's literally the perfect ending. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.